the 2025 Special Olympics Summer Games bid has been submitted on September 22nd, and the local branch facilitated 30 letters of support to go with the bid application. So we're really pleased with that. And the city hosted its first Harvest Festival on September 24th at Musco CP Park. The event consisted of local entertainment, pie eating contest, beer gardens, chili cook-off, and overall the event went very well, and we had over 2,000 people attend that particular event. So another big event for us. Update on transit. So the increase of ridership for the week of September 11th to 17th compared to the previous week, the conventional increase was 12%, on-demand increased by 24%, paratransit increased by 20%. So our continued to increase those numbers. So that's very positive. And also, Mr. Harvard, our transit director, met with residents of the Up Manor to listen to their transit concerns. That meeting was held on September 24th. So it was a really good meeting, and we are taking their concerns into consideration as we do some tweaking and some redesign. So with regards to the schedule, we've been working on tweaking the schedule. So right now I believe it's a 30-minute schedule so that the buses all congregate near the Town Center Mall on the half hour. That's too tight. That's not working out. So we are looking at I believe a 35-minute, 38-minute, or 40-minute schedule. So we'll be finalizing that in a little while. So we want that in place before winter sets in. So Mr. Harvard is working very hard with his staff to tweak that schedule, and that'll remedy a lot of our issues. Via Software Company was in town and helped us, or is continuing to work with us to help resolve some of our software issues. So we're making some progress in that area also. So Mr. Chair, that's my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Director Lemieux. Appreciate that report. Sounds like a busy week while Council was mostly away over these last couple of weeks for that update. I do have at least one question in the queue. I have one myself, but I'll see if any others jump in here as well. Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. Thanks, Mr. Lemieux, for the update. You've been busy, eh? That's good. I just had a question in regards to the heated bus shelters, particularly at the Town Center Mall. When's the ETA for those shelters to have heat?
So that's been tendered, and I believe that tender has closed. I can't give you an official date. I know unfortunately, there are some issues with supply chain, so I will get an update for you. I believe there might be a delay, and we may not get the power there this winter. It may actually have to be, it may not happen this winter in terms of the heat. And again, I'll get you an update on that. And those are, again, because of, well, we're told because of some supply issues. But I will confirm that for you.
So the electrical won't be done because of supply issues?
That's the information I have to date, but I'll get you some more details on that.
Oh, I was super excited for that. We'll see what happens. Okay.
Thank you for that, Councillor Bosch. Councillor Bressi.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I know I'd personally strongly encourage administration to do everything possible to get that, and even if there had to be a budget request to council for temporary power, that's something that I don't know how others would feel, but that's something I'd personally support. Just with the new transit system, you have to get off the Town Center Mall for many routes, even if you're on the same route. So there's a lot of trips where I can't imagine anything worse than it being minus 30. You're on the bus, you're on the number 6 that's supposed to get you to where you're going, and even though you're riding the number 6 the whole way, you get kicked off downtown with no heated shelter. Just with the new routes, I think that heated shelter downtown is so important. We're kicking people off halfway on a route. So I really encourage administration to do everything possible to get that there and talk to us if more resources are needed.
Thanks for those comments, Councillor Bressi. Looking around, I don't see any other questions for you, Director Lemieux. So I do have one, and it's also in regards to transit. So you mentioned that the schedule is going through some tweaks over the last couple of weeks. I've still been receiving phone calls. I'm sure other council members have as well around the bus schedule and how early that it stops. Have we fixed that yet? I haven't got an email complaining in about 5 days, so that was a bit of a relief. But a lot of our riders are hoping that we're going to switch it to a bit of later hours so it can accommodate work schedules and whatnot.
Yeah. So. no changes have been made to the schedule yet. That's something that Steve's working on. So, and I'm not sure. I believe it'll go a little bit later, but I'm not sure how much later. And certainly, I will work with Steve to get you some information as soon as we draft what that schedule is going to look like.
Yeah, look forward to that. Thank you very much, Director Lemieux. Any further questions? Seeing none, I will move along.
Hey,
Hey,
Councillor Thiessen,
Gladys.
if I could interrupt.
You may.
Thank you. My question for Director Lemieux is, and sorry for not turning my video on. I don't think I have enough bandwidth in the hotel here to do that. But my question is, when I was last at the Eastlink Centre, that bus shelter was still not it's still under construction, and yet nothing's really happened there since the spring. I'm wondering if we're going to open it, if we're having an issue with heating it, perhaps we still need to open it as a shelter. I'm not really sure what's happening there, and I could use some more information about that.
Director Lemieux, and then we'll go to Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll have to get an update, and I will email all of council on that. I don't have the answer right now.
If that's the case, Director Lemieux, can you ensure that you send your email to me through Amanda so that she can make sure I get it? That'd be appreciated.
Yeah, will do.
Overseas
Thanks.
internet connections and all that. Councillor O'Connor.
Yes, in relation to the same issue that Gladys brought up, I noticed that most of the shelters are still locked and you can't get in them. So, and I was at the one at NWP, so couldn't get in it. So just let you know they're closed off and can't be used as a shelter, regardless of the heat.
Thank you for those comments, Councillor O'Connor. And as Director Lemieux said, he'll get back to us with all those updates as requested via council and committee. And any further questions? Gladys's hand is down. That's great. All right, we'll move right along into item 3.2, the Community Advisory Committee Annual Report. And to present this, we have Miss Katie Bieberdorf.
Now it's on. Perfect. Thank you, Chair Thiessen. So I'm here today to provide an update on the work that the Community Advisory Committee has done so far in 2022. They've met 7 times and will meet at least 2 more times before the end of the year. The committee has reviewed and supported 48 grants totaling nearly $250,000 for arts development, pursuit of excellence, sport hosting, and large-scale tourism funding. Additional grant funding will be reviewed prior to the end of the year, including the Community Improvement Grant, which is due in October, as well as scholarships for pursuit of excellence in arts development. A number of engagement opportunities have been discussed at meetings or circulated via email and include Budget 2023, stormwater utility, college park rezoning, and rural area rezoning. Feedback was solicited from the community regarding grant funding criteria, grant policies, neighborhood associations, as well as museum exhibits. The committee has been very busy and has provided great feedback to administration to support various projects and initiatives. And administration is requesting that committee recommend council accept this report for information.
Hey, thank you for that, Ms. Bieberdorf. I have a question from Councillor Bosch. Oh, well, go ahead and make the motion. I like the report too. It's pretty cut and dry. Councillor Berg.
Yeah, actually, my question is it possible for members of council to sit on these as flies on the wall? I'm just intrigued with how the process works.
Ms. Bieberdorf.
Thank you. I'm not 100% certain on that. I'm looking at the city clerk. It's a bylaw, and it's comprised of public committee members, so I'm not entirely sure.
Ms. Van Beekveld.
Thank you, Chair. I believe those meetings are all open to the public. Council was very clear that they didn't want members sitting on these, then that's why we got rid of the Arts Development and Pursuit of Excellence Committee. So I guess that would be up to you guys, but I think the intention was not to have councillors there.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I wouldn't necessarily want to be voting or have input. I just actually want to see how they work.
Just to observe.
Yeah. Is it possible to get an invitation for the next one?
Ms. Bieberdorf.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. Yes, absolutely. We can send out the next meeting date. If you're
Great,
available,
thank you.
you're welcome to attend.
Might be a very nervous meeting for our community advisory members with Grantberg looking over their shoulder as they make decisions.
He's not very intimidating.
No, not at all. Councillor Bressie.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'm also a little bit curious how they're going. I'm wondering if there's been any consideration for the chair of the committee or a public member of the committee to make these reports to council rather than a member of administration. Honestly, I think the report's good, but I was a little bit surprised to see administration presenting the report, so I'm just wondering why it landed there.
Ms. Bieberdorf.
Sure, thank you, Chair Thiessen. We did have the chair in attendance last year. Unfortunately, the chair wasn't able to make it this year, but it certainly is an option for them to join.
Gotcha. So it would be regular practice. It's just kind of a weird year that the chair's not here, but the chair definitely feels welcome to come to council.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good. I'm going to hand it over now to Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. I move the committee receive this report for information.
That motion is in order. Any discussion or debate on that? Seeing as it's presented, I'll call to question. All in favor? And that motion carries unanimously. Moving right along to item 3.3, we have Ms. Cajoles in the house. Cajolet, I know I always do that. Maybe I'm having fun with it and I don't know it. But here to present on the Grande Prairie Public Library Needs Assessment, Ms. Cajolet.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. In November of 2021, a committee directed administration to bring back a needs assessment for the Grande Prairie Public Library. In December of last year, the Grande Prairie Public Library hired an external consultant to conduct an efficiency audit of library programs and services. This August, the consultant presented their findings to the library board, and the board is in the process of reviewing the report and recommendations. Administration does anticipate that an implementation plan will follow. The funding allocation approved for 2023 for the Grande Prairie Library remains unchanged, and administration suggests that committee recommend council receive this report for information.
Another cut and dry report there, just like that. I'll turn it over to committee and council members to see if there are any questions. And yes, I am checking you out online there too, Gladys. So I'll watch for that little hand rising up if you got a question. Seeing none. Yeah, I guess I got a question. My question's more for Councillor O'Connor. Councillor O'Connor, you sit on both the Peace Library Systems Board as well as the Grande Prairie Public Library Systems. How did you find, I guess, sort of the needs assessment and the work of the consultant, how that worked to maybe making the relationship stronger between the Peace Library Systems, Grande Prairie Public Library, and the City of Grande Prairie?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Thiessen. It was an honor to be not only with one, but to both and see the process. Margaret Law is a former librarian on a number of different levels, went back and got 2 business degrees, and is now consulting to libraries across the province. Excuse me. And what I found from her, both her reports was very to the point with key identification of all issues in both organizations, and to the point where she meant, you need to fix this, and here's why. And it's very, very clear. I can't share with you what those are, but let me tell you that they have a lot of work to do coming forward, and both the directors of both organizations are on top of making these things work. And one of the key things was making sure the relationships not only between the library and city council and county council, but also relationship with the Peace Library System, and the Peace Library System had the same sort of thing. So they are working on it and are meeting as we speak. So I think you'll see some very good things come out of this, and possibly some efficiencies that are long overdue.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that, Councillor O'Connor and Ms. Stephanie. I have Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. A little bit of hints to what's to come. You know, the only constant is change, so, you know, that's a good process that they're going through. So I move that committee receive this report for information.
Right, and that motion is in order. Seeing no discussion, no debate, no hands flying up, so I'll call to question. And that carries. Thank you very much, Ms. Cajolet, and thank you for your updates on both sides of the library fence there, Councillor O'Connor. We really appreciate it. Moving right along, we got item 3.4, and Mr. Charles Staves is here to discuss the designation of the Grande Prairie Courthouse as a historical site. So I'll hand it over to you, Mr. Taves. I'm really excited about this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. On May 2nd of this year, Council consented to designating the old Grande Prairie Courthouse, otherwise known as the Center of Creative Arts, as a municipal historic resource. The administration developed a statement of historical significance outlining the background of the property, and the next step is for Council to issue a notice of intention to designate the Grande Prairie Courthouse. And the committee recommends that Council issue the notice of intention to designate the Grande Prairie Courthouse. And this is the next step in getting the property designated a municipal historic resource. After this step would be creating the actual bylaw. And then once the bylaw is created, we can apply to put the building on the provincial register of historic places. And once that happens, that opens up a gateway to funding from $1,000 to $50,000 in matching grants towards rehabilitation renovation projects for the building.
And thank you very much for that. That was a good report. If we had forgotten, now we remember, but it's all there in the reports as well. I have a question. I don't see any hands shooting up, so I'm just going to take over the mic right now, Mr. Taves. So from today to step 4 and us becoming an actual historical designation site at the Center for Creative Arts, what's the time process? So we approve step 1 today. How long till we get to step 4?
So we have to wait 60 days to give the public notice about this, and if they have any interest in the issue, to let that issue be known. Part of the notice of intention is the site cannot be altered in any way for 120 days. That's to protect it during this process, because sometimes when issues come up, we need that little extra time, the 120 days. Once the 60 days is passed, though, we can bring a bylaw to council to be passed. Once the bylaw is passed, it will be attached to the register of the property, and then we apply to the province to have the property put on the register. I'm not exactly sure of that timeline. It's probably in the area of about 3 or 4 months to get that done. So we're probably looking at half a year, perhaps 8 months before the final, and that we can start applying for the grants. The grants are typically applied for in February of each year, with notice coming out whether you're successful or not in May or June. And they expect that most grant projects will be finished by the following February. But of course, to be working with the Heritage Advisor, so there's always room for movement in those dates.
All right, no, thank you very much for that. I have Councillor Berg shooting his hand up over there.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily have a question for Charles. I just want to compliment you on the great work that you've been doing behind the scenes on this. I just more want to speak in favor of it before I make the recommendation. Grande Prairie is significantly behind our neighboring communities in designating historical resources. Sexsmith and I believe the county even have more than Grande Prairie, and we're the regional hub. We have the historic buildings here. We're just falling behind in designating them, and I think this is a wonderful first step to, I guess, get us more familiar with the process, but also encourage others around the city to make their buildings historic designation as well. And so that way we preserve our history. The one benefit that we've already seen is in March of 2007 when the art gallery collapsed. That was designated a historical resource, and it was repaired, and now it's one of our city's treasures. And so I don't anticipate any more collapses, but that's the far extreme as to what a historical designation can do in preserving our history. So with that, I'd like the committee to recommend council issue a notice of intention to designate the Grande Prairie Courthouse located at 9904 101st Avenue, Grande Prairie as a municipal historic resource under Section 26 of the Alberta Historical Resources Act.
Thank you for that and for your comments. Seeing no one else putting their hands up, that's exactly what I was going to say. Long have I come to Grande Prairie since I left in '96, and when I came back in 2004, I think my biggest gripe was after seeing all of Canada, we just don't have that same reverence for our history and our culture through the designations of our buildings, which have a lot of culture and a lot of history embroiled and entailed inside their walls. So the more that we can do to preserve that, like the way they built things 100 years ago seems to last. So I think whatever we can do to make that stand out and be enriching our community for its history, culture, and its presence, I think all the better. So thank you for your comments, Councillor Berg. And any other further comments or questions? Oh, I got Councillor O'Toole popped up on screen. Councillor O'Toole.
Speaking of historic buildings, I'm in Toronto right now, and there's everywhere you go, there's historic buildings. Charles, I don't know if you're still here or not, but I was wondering, can you tell me how many historic buildings that we have designated in the city now?
Currently, we have two provincial historic buildings designated, the old high school, which is the art gallery, and the Reverend Forbes homestead, but we currently have no municipal properties designated.
Okay, I got one more question because you're the guy that's going to answer it. Is there anything on the horizon that you would like to see incorporated as a historic building? Is there a list?
Yes, there was a list compiled in 2006. Most of the buildings in that list are still standing. We have been approached by some owners of other buildings that have shown interest in this process. So there is definitely a list. And I have to say, one of the perceptions I've had from people coming to Grande Prairie is, we're not that old, we don't have that history, but the history is all around us. It's there. We recently led a horse and wagon historical tour of the downtown, and we did a historic tour all day long on the main street, and people were fascinated to learn the history of some of the buildings that are still standing in the downtown. So the history's there, we just have to look for it.
Thank you very much for your comments.
It's good to know we got a list. Thanks for your questions, Councillor O'Toole. We also have a motion on the floor as well by Councillor Berg. Any other further discussion or debate on that? Seeing none, I'll call the question. And that is unanimous. Looks like your hard work has paid off, Charles. Thanks for the report today and all your hard work.
Thank you.
Awesome. So moving on to our last item on the agenda for business to do. We are talking about the Alberta Community Partnership Program grant application for the Regional Handy Bus Project. And here to present today, in lieu of Steve Harvard, we have our Director of Community Services, Mr. Dan Lemieux. Director Lemieux.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this Regional Handy Bus project started in 2017. At that time, the project was initially sponsored by the town of Wembley, and a feasibility study was completed and a report was presented in June 2018. The project was then put on hold, and the reason it was put on hold is because at that time the County of Grande Prairie obtained a provincial grant funding for the operation of a rural transit, so that that feasibility study was sort of paused at that time just to see how the county connector would work. The county connector was, the project was stopped just through COVID. So COVID caused some further delays, and the county connector project was stopped by county council. So at the 2022 intermunicipal meeting, the regional handy bus project was discussed and direction was given to the participant, the municipalities, to consider passing a resolution to continue to work towards that regional system to create a joint committee. So that has happened, and the committee members are looking at applying for an ACP intermunicipal collaboration grant, and that requires a motion from all councils to support that application. That application is being led by the County of Grande Prairie. So the city administration is supportive of the grant application submission, and the funds will be used to hire an expert in this field and to conduct some community engagement and to develop an operational plan and a funding model. So our recommendation is that County Council support this application process.
All right. Looks like we got a lot of questions there, Director Lemieux. I'll go to Councillor Grantberg first.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. So what we're asking is just to do an initial study and not approve necessarily the bus itself.
So thank you for that question, Mr. Chair. So the feasibility study has been done. The next step, this application, is actually to hire a subject matter expert that will show us what that would look like and what the funding formula would be. So it's actually to implement what the initial study was suggesting.
Okay, so there is no financial commitment at this point then?
There is no financial commitment at this point.
Great, thank you, Director Lemieux. Thank you, Chair Thiessen.
Well, thank you, Councillor Berg. Councillor Bosch.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. Mr. Lemieux, in this background information on the report, it says this hybrid model would serve all residents regardless of mobility. Can you explain that? If this is a handy bus, what does that statement mean?
I think the intent is that it would be able to accommodate people with mobility issues. So it's not a conventional transit system. It would have the flexibility to accommodate people with mobility issues.
Right, but it says will serve all residents regardless of mobility. So it contradicts what you just said.
So the service, and I'm not sure, maybe I don't understand the question. The service will be will be open to everyone. This is not a accessible. This is not a service just for people with mobility issues. Okay. This will be open to anyone. So currently there are buses that run from La Glace, from Beaver Lodge, from Hythe, from all over, from Sexsmith. So there are some efficiencies to be had by pulling this together. That's the concept behind this project.
Okay,
so I'm not sure if I've answered your question.
You did, yeah. No, I was curious about the handy bus part and if that entails like the connector piece or, you know, from town to town, or exactly what it meant. So if it's everybody, then it's everybody. I was just curious.
Yes, and it is open to everyone.
Okay.
So yeah, just my own comments, I guess, on the handy bus to help you out there, Dan. I thought you answered it quite well too. I think what hearing from the county of Wembley and Sexsmith in different discussions that I've had with them in regards to the county connector bus was that it was a big bus that wasn't filling up. And now we have a handy bus that has the capability of picking up people in wheelchairs, motorized wheelchairs, and other stuff with drivers who are trained in transporting those people. There are other seats on the bus as well, as I've traveled inside our handy buses on the chair days, the cheerleaders events, and so I think there's seating for up to about 10 other people and at least 2 wheelchairs. But all those seats can fold up, so if you had like a huge contingent of people from Lakeview wanting to come into the city and go to the mall, you know, you could probably fit about at least 6 wheelchairs on there and travel them in there. So I hope that, so cost of fuel, efficiency for filling up the bus, and the ability to travel people with mobility issues. I guess my question is, when we were talking about the study, one of my concerns with the last county connector is it just seemed to bring people into town. Sometimes people come to, well, most times people come to Grande Prairie to get access to services, whether that's at the hospital, a swim class at the East Link Center, or shopping at the Prairie Mall. Will administration work with the county to ensure that people have access to these fabulous facilities in our community, which they're likely coming in from the country to the city to enjoy?
So certainly that'll be a discussion that we'll have with the subject matter expert in terms of why are people coming to town and how could we accommodate and make sure that they're able to access the resources and the services that they need.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Director Lemieux. Councillor O'Connor.
Yes, similar to that question. Thank you, Chair Thiessen. I'm just wondering, will this be kind of like an on-demand? So if you're leaving, being picked up from Wembley, you come into town, will it take you to your exact destination, or is there a central point or several central points?
That has not been determined yet. That'll be part of the execution and designing this particular system. Where we see the efficiencies is right now, all these different municipalities have different buses. And the buses come to town 1, maybe 2 days a week, maybe 3 days a week. The rest of the time, the bus sits there. So that's where the efficiency is going to be. And Mr. Chair, to answer Mr. O'Connor's question, I don't think it's been determined exactly. Is it going to be, you know, is it, how many stops and where is it going to go? Is it going to be on demand? That'll be part of that next execution phase. So that's why we're asking for this funding to sort of, let's figure out exactly what it's going to look like. And so there'll be some public consultation to see what do people need.
Thank you.
And thank you for all the questions and for all the answers. I know you're pretty new to the city, doing your second tour here, but Director Lemieux has experience with the bus system, like with his time on the county, and we're turning him into a transit matter expert as well with these first few weeks onto the job. So we do have 2 motions attached to this. I'll take one at a time if I can. Councillor Berg.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. First one is that committee recommend council support their involvement with the regional handy bus project.
All right, cut and dry, very simple. I see no discussion or debate, so I will call it to question. Sorry about that, Amanda. We were quick. Amanda, our clerk here was going to have us do them both at once, but I like to make extra work for a committee. So I'll take that second motion now. Councillor Burke.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. I was going to rattle them both off too. The committee recommend council support the County of Grande Prairie's application to the 2022 Alberta Community Partnership, also known as ACP, Intermunicipal Collaboration Grant for this project.
Right, and seeing no further discussion or debate, I'll call that to question as well. And that motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Thanks for stepping in for Mr. Harvard there, Director Lemieux. And now I'm going to put you right back into your own chair to lay out the outstanding items list for committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the first 2 items, 1200 and 1212, will be coming to committee in November. November 8th is the expected report date. And 1169 is one that we've dealt with today, so it could come off the list. Be happy to answer any questions.
Right. Thank you very much, Director Lemieux. Any questions on the outstanding items list? Councillor Bosch. No questions. Just the motion then.
Thank you, Councillor Thiessen. I move committee receive this September 27th, 2022 outstanding items list as amended for information.
That motion is in order. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, call to question. As it goes, it rolls. Thank you very much, everyone. That passes unanimously. And thank you very much for your time today and attendance at today's Community Services Committee meeting. I will now adjourn the meeting, and we'll be back in 5 minutes or a little bit longer for our next committee meeting.